Can you give us some idea of some interesting projects that the team have delivered during that time?
Yeah, I think the org effectiveness piece is really interesting. So you can quite easily structure your organisation in layers or in different hierarchies to take a look at how the organisation's built, and it's quite easy to see complexities within that. So some of the things that we look at are senior grades that are low down in the layer structure within the bank. We look at spans of control, obviously, to see where we may have layers that are not necessarily working the most efficiently. We've also done things from a network analysis or graphing of network analysis. So we take the organisation, and it's quite difficult with an organisation our size to do this, but we put the organisation into a node structure where we're using either the position hierarchy or the functional management hierarchy to set that node structure. But once you've got it in a graph database, what it helps you do is to do all kinds of calculations and questions that you couldn't necessarily do in a relationship database. So when we layer onto a graph structure, if you imagine a node structure of nodes split out with the most senior CEO at the top and the breakout of those nodes down through the organization, then as we go down each layer and we layer on top through the use of color or shape, we can start to see where the regional roles are, where certain activity is done. And so that really helps us to understand the structure of the organization. That helps the business understand particularly tough questions around, well, why are you built like that? Is it by design? Is it by osmosis? It's just happened over time. This thing has just grown that way. And when you talk to businesses about those questions, it's much easier to go with something that you found than a blank sheet of paper and ask an open question of what's your biggest challenge and let me help solve for it. So I think those are areas that are quite interesting, and I think we're getting really good feedback from the organisation on that. Other areas that we've done recently, we did a great project on looking at Glassdoor information. So there's an API available for Glassdoor, which is essentially a URL where you append certain text to it and you send that out to the Glassdoor API, and it will send you back some information on the external results for a 5-point scale of how your CEO is doing, how your senior leadership's doing, their view on benefits within the organisation. And so if you take that snapshot of your company every 3, 6 months, quarter, whatever, you can start to see if there's an external change, and then you can look to, whilst it's not in the most granular format, you can look at similar patterns to your internal surveys and then get a sense of the internal lens or the internal voice against the external voice. And so we did that, but then we wrote a Python script that helped us to use that API to go out and look at 100 other organisations within our sector and outside of our sector, so that we could pull this data back. You get it back. It's a REST API with a JSON structure that comes back for anyone who's technical and understands that. But what it means is it's a structured format we can then read into a data set that then we can look at and we can start to do some analysis on. So that was quite cool. The other thing that I'm really excited about that we've been doing in the past few months is a lot of natural language processing on unstructured data sets where we've asked specific questions. They could be the engagement questions, but they could also be information around the pay and reward program that we've just been through for end of year, or other pulse surveys that we run. So we do it anonymously, but what we look to do is cluster the certain phrases into 2, 3 and 4 word groups, and then we look for nouns, and then we look to try to cluster them into some form of view of what the pulse of the people are saying. And that's actually working out really well. So again, a Python project, leveraging open source, so it doesn't cost anything, leveraging packages that you can download as part of Python that take advantage of some of the things that other people have done, particularly where you want to use packages that already recognize nouns and other words and joiner words and things that it might want to ignore, so that you're really focusing on the value of those. So I think those are some really exciting projects.
In this series, we will be speaking to a range of senior leaders who are pushing a data-driven and digital HR agenda. Make sure that you subscribe via your podcast app of choice and also via our YouTube channel for free and regular interviews with the digital HR leaders of the future.